Hey everybody, it's Josh here, and if you're here with me, it's probably because you just finished watching the Elettrico product launch video. So let's talk about them. These are the SILCA Elettricos. This is the Elettrico Micro and Elettrico Ultimate. And yeah, we talked about how we are unable to sell this product in the USA because of the current Trump tariff situation. So I really just wanted to go into some detail with all of you on what that is and kind of why that is, and what can be done about it, what can't be done about it, and kind of how we got here. Okay, so there's a ton of misinformation out there. Sadly, so much of it coming from the administration itself. So I guess for starters, we'll answer the question, who pays for the tariffs? Well, companies like me pay for the tariffs, and ultimately customers like you pay for the tariffs. China is not paying for shit. Exporting countries and exporting companies do not pay any tariff or duties on items they export. That is all on the importer. So not true. So I think, I think Trump being Trump, when he says China's going to pay, I think he means like, when somebody's beating a child and they say you're going to pay for what you did, I think he means you're going to pay by being beaten. But it's the actual companies like us and the American people that pay. So let's just be super clear on that. Yeah, for total transparency, both of these products are made in China. And, we didn't want to start in China. We certainly didn't start in China. But, just like for the same reason your iPhone and every other cell phone and flat screen TV and drone and other high-tech electronic is made in China right now, they are without a doubt the best at it. Or certainly the best at it at consumer electronic prices. And one of the things that we learned, as I think we've talked about before in these videos, we made all SILCA pumps in the USA until the Trump administration, number one, where they put the big aluminum and steel tariffs in place that jacked up our raw material pricing. It actually made it almost as expensive to buy the materials for a pump as what I was selling the pump to a bike shop for. But they didn't put tariffs on the finished goods coming from Asia. And so it cost me 40% more to buy materials to make pumps, but it didn't cost any more to import pumps from somewhere else. And so in 2018, we actually offshored all of our pump manufacturing, except for the Ultimate, back to Taiwan because we couldn't, I think the Impero pump at the time, we were originally making for around $30 and selling it to a bike shop for I think $50 or something like that. And then with the tariffs on aluminum and steel hitting, our aluminum cost and everything rolled up. It started costing us around $45 to make that pump. Well, I can't sell it for $48 or $50 if it cost me $45 to make it in the first place. You got to make some money, right? Because that's before you're paying for your rent, your insurance, your salaries for your employees, your health insurance, right? God knows this is America. We pay out the nose for health insurance for our employees. So all of those things have to be paid for out of the profit you make on those products. And if you can't make them profitably, you either don't make them or you make them somewhere cheaper. One of the things that happened during that time, we lost 3 of our really close machine shop partners here in the US because you couldn't afford to make consumer goods in America with your raw material costs going up. And one of the things that's happened in the years since then is that pretty much all the manufacturing, particularly for specialty electronics, we talked about we're using the motors out of a drone, we're using the soft lithium packs out of cell phones for the batteries here, we're using a lot of precision machining. What exists of that in America today exists either for aerospace, defense, or biomedical. Those are the industries that can afford or are mandated to make products in America. And so what comes with that is that the prices for those items are, sort of protected, right? If you're selling drones to the government and they have to buy American-made motors for their drones, they're going to pay more. In the beginnings of this development of this product, we talked to the 2 that we could find motor manufacturers in the U.S. that were making motors that had the right specs. And the cheapest we could find a motor for one of these little pump units was $59, my cost. And again, if you're selling this thing for $150, you cannot have a single component that's costing you $59. Similar things with the battery packs, some of the other machine components. So the reality is, even if we're assembling the product here in the States, most of these subcomponents are probably coming from somewhere else. And then one of the motor manufacturers actually really kind of blew my mind. He said, hey, we can't fully insulate you from tariffs because there's no neodymium in the USA. So motors need magnets. Well, the magnets come from somewhere else. And so even if you're a US motor maker right now, your prices are going to go up considerably because a huge percentage of the motor cost is in magnets, and those magnets don't come from here. So, you know, these supply chains have gotten, as I've said in the GCN video that I know a bunch of you have commented on in our comments about, you know, it took 20 years for the West to bleed its manufacturing to the East, right? It took 20 years to lose what we've lost to China. And you know, in the case of Taiwan, we've given it to them. You know, hey, this is stuff that we don't really want to make anymore. We're going to focus on higher value items made in the USA. We are not getting it back quickly, right? And because the complexity of these products are so high, entire supply chains are going to have to migrate. So, you know, you can't just say, we're going to make motors here, we're going to make soft pack batteries here, you know, we're going to do casting and forging of these micro components. I mean, there's some pretty amazing little there's a little forged crankshaft piece and a die cast housing for, I mean, some really intricate parts. That technology for that micro scale really hasn't existed in America for some years now. Which is one of the reasons that a lot of these automotive and aerospace parts are crossing the border from Canada and Mexico so many times that, you know, that technology left, but we still do a better job machining it in America or whatever, so it's being cast or forged in one place and moved around. But the reality of these supply chains is that the stuff that's made here, I mean, this is a $150 retail price, this is a $120 retail price. I could not make this pump today in America for anywhere near $150. And so, of course, then I couldn't, you know, now we're selling it for $300, and, well, there's no market for a $300 mini pump. Yeah, so, you know, we went to where the supply chain was, and that happened to be China. We talked to Taiwan and Vietnam quite a bit, and the same realities really set in. They, you know, this thing made in Taiwan, we're still buying the motors from China, we're still buying the batteries from China, and most of the electronic parts and chips would still be coming from China. So we really designed and built this whole product around absorbing the original, the 25% China tariff that had been in place when this project was started. You know, we could make that work. Now that the tariff is 145% plus, and that's just the tariff. So there's still duties. I think it's 14 or 15% for a pump like this. There's still duties and import fee, other things that come with that. And so I think, you know, we just missed the window to get our first 100 units of each of these into the States, which is where these units came from. On these first 100 units, we paid around a 169% duty, tariff, and import paperwork fee on the item. Contrary to what people love to say on the internet, you know, these are not insanely high margin products. I mean, they really aren't. They're high complexity. They're just, when you're making a very high quality product, the margins actually get compressed quite a bit because, you know, we're selling it to a bike shop and the bike shop needs to make a little money if they sell it to you, and so on. And so, yeah, we're just kind of stuck. So, impossibly hard decision had to be taken to not import these. We actually stopped a shipment of thousands and thousands of units. We stopped it at the very last minute from getting on a plane to come. Those units will be redistributed around the world because we can still sell these things globally with no cost implication because other countries have not chosen to go to war with China on these tariffs. So I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm sorry for my staff, for my employees, for you, for the bike shops. We had so much excitement for this product. The handful of dealers, I think we had around 100 dealers that were planning to launch with us. Some of them had even had hands-on prototypes and been using them for us. So I'm really just a huge excitement around a global product launch, and here we are saying, sorry, can't have it. I really hope things change. I really hope manufacturing comes back to America. You know, we work very hard to make what we can make here, and we're about 65 to 70% USA manufactured. And of that, it seems to be probably between 5 and 10% of that involves some sort of Chinese subcomponent, right? It's when you get into your suppliers business. You start to learn. We learned a lot during COVID. I think I've told the story before about Hirabel. 100% made in the USA, but the silicone cones are molded in Cleveland with silicone that is made in Texas, but there's a precursor in that Texas-made silicone that actually only comes from China. And then when they platinum catalyze silicone, when it's catalyzed in the molding process, the platinum catalyzer also only comes from China right now. And we learned that in COVID because Australia shut down and they were the ones mining the platinum to send to China to be made into catalyzer. These global supply chains have gotten super crazy. And I agree 100% when people say we are over-reliant on China. We are, and we need to fix that. Sadly, coming out of nowhere and putting an arbitrary number on the ground and starting a trade war, not the way to get that back. We could be doing this strategically. We've talked about that in some of our other videos. There are ways to do this. Europe is actually doing a really nice job of trying to bring manufacturing back into Europe, but we have chosen a completely different path, and there's going to be consequences. And so I think the next few months we'll see how it plays out, but I think there are going to be shortages. I think you're going to see a lot of small brands go out of business. I think you're going to see a lot of retailers struggle because one way a company can try to make money in this tariff environment is to go direct to consumer and cut out the retailer. And so retailers are going to likely end up starved of product or only able to buy product that they can't sell with enough margin to stay in business. So I'm extremely hopeful that these worst case scenarios don't happen, but that's where we stand at the moment. So I'm so sorry to my American consumers, customers. We love you guys, love all of you, and really want to get this cool thing in your hand. And it doesn't look like that's going to be able to happen. Hopefully things change. Hopefully there's some sanity and some stability that come in these next couple of weeks, and I can make a next video telling everybody that things have changed, and now that we're able to bring the product to market in the U.S., I'll let you know as soon as that happens. Anyway, rest of the world, these are live and available. Please come see us. Please talk to our shops, dealers, distributors globally. I think we went live with over 100 dealers globally today, which is very exciting. So really happy that we were able to pull that off. As always, thanks for watching, and hope to be back soon with some good news.